Hi and welcome back to Raven Arts Paintings. Today we're gonna paint Ciri, and as you can see the reference card, the graphic is really cool, but it's useless if you will be looking for some reference for the painting. So I decide that I would use the graphics from the video game The Witcher Wild Hunt, which give you a better color indication. So as you can see now on the screen, this is my reference card. Now as you can see, I primed the Mini with the grey primer, and then I decided to wash the Agrax Earthshade straight away on it before I put any color. The Mini is pretty detailed, and first of all that will expose any detail areas, so it will be easier to paint, as you know they will be more visible later on. The second thing is that you know the deep recesses will be already darker due to the fact that we put the dark wash before any colors. I'm doing that with the very detailed minis, and it's a useful technique, so don't hesitate to try it. I am also putting a bit of a wash on the base. I want those stones to have a bit of a brown look. You'll see later on when I finish the base why I want to have that effect. So this is how's the Mini present at the moment, and we're gonna start the actual painting, the color painting. I started with the Caden Flesh Stone, which I cover the face and the neck of the Mini. Ciri have a pale color skin tone, so that's why I decided to start with this color first. Then we do a bit of a highlighting later on as well. Next we switch into the Scrag Brown and the Morfrag Brown, and we're gonna do a few pieces of leather. As you notice, she's have quite a few leather pieces on herself, and they have a few different tones, so we're gonna try to reflect that while we're painting. So this mix of those two colors I'm using for the boots and the leather straps. So the leather strap that going across her body, and then the ones that she having on her sleeves as well. Next we're gonna switch to the mix of XV88 and the Scrag Brown, pretty much 50-50, and we're gonna paint her corset. This part it's a bit lighter brown, that's why I decided to mix those two colors. and then we're gonna switch to the rhino side that we're gonna use for her pouch, purse, you name it, that she's having on the back of her belt. So this is how the mini looks so far, and we're gonna switch to the next color, which is gonna be the ashen gray, and we're gonna mix that with the scrag brown to have a kind of like a grayish brown color, and then we're gonna paint her gloves. I'm also using this color for a scabbard for a dagger. Now we switch into the Mephiston red, and we're gonna paint the sword scabbard on her back. Again, I'm painting only the parts in between those leather stripe. Now the pure Russian grey, we're gonna paint the dagger handle, and then later on we're gonna add some finishing touches to the top of it. Now we're gonna use the mix of two color, which is the Macragage blue and the Abaddon black, with the pretty much 50-50 mix, and we're gonna cover the black leather parts, which as you can see is the leather belt that she's wearing. There is also a scabbard, the leather parts of the scabbard on her back, so we're gonna use this mix to paint those as well. I'm trying to be pretty neat while I'm doing it, so we're not gonna go over our red tone that we painted earlier on. Obviously, as you can see, it might happen that you go over the required area, so it's an easy fix at this stage. Just go back to the previous tone and you can fix whatever you painted over. Now we're gonna get back to our Valor Brown tone. I use the pure Valor Brown, and I'm painting the edges of the gloves that she's wearing. As you can see in the reference cards, they are far brighter than there any other leather that she's wearing. That's why I decided to paint them with the Valor Brown. Next, I choose the Ogren camo with a little bit of the Screaming Skull, and I use the stone to put that stripe that's going across her chest. You can see it only in the back of the mini in this case, but still it's well worth to give it additional tone. And now we're switching into our metal colors. So again, I choose the lead belcher with a little bit of the blue tone. In this case, it is a dark sea blue from the Model Master, just to give that tint of the bluish steel, and we're painting all metal parts, so the sword, then you can paint the belt that going across her corset, and of course all the buckles on the belt and the stripes. Also the sword scabbard on the bottom and the top part have the metal finish, so we're gonna paint those with the same color mix. Now I had to go back to our rhino's hide. Unfortunately, I forgot to paint the heels on her boots. So pure rhino's hide. If you will be following this guide, you can do it at the same time as you're doing the pouch on the belt. Now for the grey parts, which is the head and the shirt as well. I will be using the mix of the three colors, which is the Screaming Skull, the Asian Grey and the White. I will be doing a bit of a wet blending, so I'm adding a bit of a medium into it as well. So first from the bottom of her hair I'm putting a grey tone, then I will be adding Screaming Skull a little bit higher, and then do a bit of a wet blending with those two, and then finally on the top I will be putting the pure white, and again it will be wet blended with the Screaming Skull. Later on we're gonna be doing a bit of a shading and the highlighting on it as well, but for the start we should get a nice transition between the grey, different tones of the grey while we doing that. And also the Screaming Skull is not a pure white, so it give us a bit of that illumination effect. I will be using the same color scheme for her shirt, so step by step, part by part I will be mixing those tones on her shirt part. Now we're gonna paint the trousers, and we're gonna use the Nagarat Knight with the Rhinox hide, and for the lighter tone I will be using the Troll Slayer orange and a little bit of the ivory. I also added quite a bit of the medium, as I want to do wet blending. So the first, the brown and the purple tone are mixed pretty much 50-50, and with the drops, few drops of the medium, and I'm painting all the trousers in one go, and the medium will give us the extra time before the paint dries off, so then we could apply our lighter tone. So as you can see now, I'm adding a bit of orange and the ivory, and I will be doing a bit of a wet blending on the top surfaces. Again, once you apply the color, then you can do a bit of a nice blending with the pure damp brush, just to get those transition a bit smoother. And again, once we brighten them up a bit, then we add furthermore addition of the orange and the ivory, just to highlight a few areas a little bit further. And now, as you can see, I'm adding an extra bit of orange and an extra bit of ivory, and this is the color I was hoping to achieve. So I do a little bit more highlighting. Again, every layer you put it on, a thin layer you put it on, go a little bit smaller area than the previous one, so that will help you to bring that highlighting effect to life. Lastly, I used my first purple and the brown mix with quite a bit of the medium. I create a bit of a wash, I would say, and put a little bit over our brightest highlights, just to have those transition looks a little bit more smooth towards the end. Now painting the eyes. This is the most harder part for me. I use the ivory from Vallejo. You can add a little bit of medium, just a tiny bit, so we'll give you the chance for correction. And then I decide to do her eye pupils with the Rhinox hide. So while you do it, put your both hands firmly on the table and do your best to paint those small wee dots. Don't worry if you won't get successful. You can always repaint the white again and try another time. It is the really hard part, so don't give up while you not get it right in the first time. So this is how the face with the eyes looks like at the moment. I was pretty happy with it, and then once you're doing that, you can start the shading part. So in my case, I use the Rakeland flesh shade for the face, and then I switch over to the pure black, the Noon Oil, for the shirt and the hair as well. As you know, Ciri has a pure white hair. However, you know, on the mini it looks nicer if we put a little bit more color tone, so from white to gray. I also use the black Noon Oil to cover the sword, all the metal parts and the sword scabbard. Apologies for losing a bit of a sharpness for the moment. My lens moves a bit, so sorry about that. Next we're gonna do the shading on the leather parts, and I decide to put an Agrax earth shade on all the leather parts. Next, the 50-50 mix of Duchess Violet and the Agrax Earth shade we're gonna put on the trousers, but again I would wash it off, most of it from the top parts. Next, the highlighting tones for the sword scabbard, so I started with the Mephiston Red, and again we put it on every gap between those leather stripes, and then we do a tiny touch with the Wild Rider Red, just to highlight it from the top of the surface. And to highlight those Swiss stripes, the leather stripe, we're gonna use the same mix of the Macrach blue and the Abaddon black, but again a little bit more blue tone, and we're doing a couple of layers, and every time we add more of the blue, and again towards the end I have added a little bit of the ivory as well, just to have a nicer, lighter tone of that bluish color. The Asian grey and our brown, the Scarlet brown. So again we're mixing pretty much 50-50, and then do a highlighting on the gloves, but then every next layer we're switching to pure Scarlet brown. And finally, for our final touch, we added a tiny bit of the ivory as well. And also doing a highlighting with those stones on the dagger scabbard. I wasn't happy with the shape of the sword. The top was a bit bended. I was trying to fix it with the hot water before I paint the mini, but it wasn't working, so I decided to cut it a bit and repaint it over. Now, as you can see, I'm doing the highlighting on her skin on her face. So again, I get back to the Cadian flesh tone and the Kislev flesh and a bit of an ivory. So I started with the mix of the Cadian flesh tone and the Kislev flesh, and then further down another layers are the pure Kislev flesh, and then the last layer would be the Kislev flesh with a tiny bit of the ivory. Again, you can add a tiny bit of, really tiny bit of the medium, just to help to achieve the smooth transition there, but it's not necessary. If you do that, if you've done that before, you should be able to do it without it. But if you just start in painting the minis, the medium would be very nice, very helpful. Now I add a little bit of the red tone, the wash from the Yarra painter. I put in a little bit on her lips, and then with the Mephiston red, I'm doing the wee scar that she's having on her cheek. I know it's a little bit too bright, but with that size of the mini on the table, you wouldn't see it at all. Then at the end, I blend a little bit of that red tone on her cheeks, just to give that a little bit of that kind of a rose effect. And then finally we start doing the highlighting on the hair. So then from the top on the exposed hairs, I'm adding a little bit of the pure white. I'm doing the same with her shirt, so here and there adding a tiny bit of a pure white just to highlight those areas. Now we're back to Ogren Camo with a little bit of ivory, and we do a little touch on the edges of that stripe that's going across her back. So this is how our Ciri looks so far, and our next highlight, we're gonna do the Valor brown with the Scrag brown, and we're gonna do the edges of the gloves. Now we do the highlighting on the boots and some of the leather stripes, and I'm starting with the mix of the Morfrang brown and the Scrag brown, and then later on I will be also adding a little bit of the Valor brown for the highest, the lightest highlighting. I am also using the Ballard Brown to do highlighting on her corset. To highlight the weak crystals on the metal belt, I use the flat medium blue and the dark sea blue with a little bit of white. So this is the blue from Italy, and this is the tone I was trying to achieve. Unfortunately, my battery died when I was painting it, so unfortunately I can't show you this. But this is how they look like once they painted. So just a tiny wee drops on that crystal belt with the kind of light blue tone would be perfect. Then I added another layer of the wash on the boots, and this time I put Seraphim Sepia, and I cover all the leather parts again, just to have a nicer transition on the highlighting. Then another wee bit of the black Nun oil with plenty of medium, just to have a bit of a nicer transition on the grey shirt. And finally, for the metal parts, again the first highlighting with the lead belcher, and then once I do that, then I used silver from the Model Master, and with that silver I do tiny touches here and there, just to highlight the edges. Like on the sword, I only highlighting the sharp edge of the sword, just to have a nice reflection on it. Again, on the sword scabbard and on those stripes, the metal parts on those stripes as well could be highlighted with a little bit silver, which is pretty bright silver color, and it will give you that nice reflection of the light coming reflecting on those metal parts. I have also decided to put a bit of a dark and half nightshade, which is a kind of blue wash from Citadel, a little bit on the sword itself, here and there, just to break that silver-ish look and have a bit of that blue reflection here and there. Now time to paint those sequins on her trousers. I didn't want to do that earlier on, as it could make the painting trousers more difficult, so this is at the very last stage, using the pure lead belcher. Now for the base itself, I want to achieve a bit of a mud and the stones beside it, so I painted a wee path in between those stones using the Titus Corrosion from Citadel, and then any excess paint from the stones you can easily remove with the cotton sticks. So I was trying to put a bit of a dirt on it, so don't be afraid to load a little bit of this paint on it, and then and then paint it with the Typhus Corrosion. I do a few drops of the Typhus Corrosions on her boots just to show a few stains of the mud on her shoes. And again the German grey on the rim of the base. Once that's done, we put a bit of grass in a few spots and a couple of flowers as well. So in that case I decided to use 2.5mm grass, which I think would be perfect because it won't be too high. The flowers are high enough to bring that higher level on that base. So PVA glue to glue the grass, and then I apply it in few spots. Remove the excess with your old brush. I have also decided to put a few flowers. They called Bee Field. They are from Paint Forge, so I would imagine you can buy them online. They self-adhesive, but I would advise to put few drops once you base them, to few drops of the super glue, so they won't be changing position afterwards. I only find out that later on, but this is my tip for you. Once you plant those flowers, don't forget to put few drops of the super glue. So this is Ciri painted, and it's still a bit shiny in a few spots, so I decided to put a few thin coats of the matte varnish from the Army Painter. That helps to flatten all those shiny parts. So this is my final version. I hope you did enjoy watching my painting of Ciri from the Witcher Old World board game. If you did, please don't forget to put the thumb up, and if you don't want to miss another video, please don't forget to subscribe my channel. So once again, thanks for watching, and I should see you in my next clip. So take care, bye bye.